Supersize your business. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite tools and strategies to grow and build and supersize your business that I don't think probably 1% of businesses have ever heard of, much less are using. I learned this technique and strategy following a huge health event. It was recommended to me by Jim Edwards. We were on the gym boat and I said something and we were talking about I had a sudden cardiac arrest right before this particular gym boat. And he talked to me about Lynn Grabhorn, her book, Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting, and that a workbook had come out. And so I ordered on the ship that book, so it was at home when I got it. And when I got home from the cruise. And it turns out it was one of the hardest workbook type things I've ever done, but the most powerful. It took me almost 2 years to complete the thing, which is hard to admit, because I think I'm this efficient person, but it took that long because I followed Lynn's instructions and she said, don't go on till the next exercise until you finish each one sequentially. And there was one, and I don't even remember what it was now, but I looked at it literally every day for months and I could not bring myself to doing that exercise. Now, it turns out when I finally did get myself to actually do it, it took about 10, 15 minutes. And then the rest of the workbook went really, really quickly and smoothly. But that was a block that I had that I wasn't able to get over. But that isn't what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the flip switch technique for emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever kind of health or well-being you need. It can help you with that. And it is exactly like it sounds. It's us flipping a switch from a negative feeling or emotion to a positive feeling or emotion instantly. It takes us instantly from a negative vibration and energy. We've talked about energy and our emotional energy and how that impacts us to a positive one. And we do it to intentionally reprogram ourselves so that we have the ability to manage our emotions and feelings in a positive way and get better results because of it. So how do we do this? What's the strategy? Then I'll share some tips and things that I learned along the way of using it. And if we have time, I'll share somebody else's story about how they applied it. But besides just me, I've used it on all sorts of things. I've used it on my relationships. I've used it on my mental state and well-being. I've used it on doubt, worry, fear, any negative emotions that come up. I flip them immediately. And sometimes I use a snap finger. Sometimes when I first started using this, I literally would walk up to a light switch or a switch and I would turn it on or to the different direction to remind me physically that I was switching from a negative feeling or emotion to a positive one. And then I would visualize that positive one. So let's talk about how to do this. Number one, the first thing we have to do is become aware and notice that we're having a negative feeling, right? We have to recognize the emotion. We'll say that's dipped or not where we want it to be. This is really powerful at work. Before meetings, before presentations, I use it for a lot of things because I want to be, before I do a presentation or a speech, I want to be in the highest possible vibration I absolutely can be. Same is true of if I'm having I used to do performance reviews for people. Literally, I did over 1,000 in 1 year because people had never had performance reviews before. And I'm like, people need to know how they're doing in other people's eyes. Anyway, long story. And to help them get on a path of personal growth and development to enhance their career and create what they wanted in their life. Second, as soon as we notice a feeling, we want to pause and acknowledge it. I usually name it. So if I'm feeling anxious, worried, fearful, doubtful, angry, upset, whatever it is, I'm going to name it. And then I'm going to mentally flip the switch from what it is. I'm going to consciously shift from that negative feeling that I've just named to a positive emotion, a positive feeling. The best one I can flip to, I'm going to do that. And usually I go to the highest possible level. If we're thinking about the emotional guidance scale or system, I go to the highest one I possibly can. And I'm going to visualize and add all the power that I can to that emotion. Then I'm going to immerse myself in that feeling by focusing and allowing that good feeling to replace the negative one. I'll give you an example of this in a minute. And then I'm going to carry it forward in the next action that I take. The next thing I do, I'm going to do it with that positive feeling and that positive emotion, that positive intent. Examples from everyday life. And I actually did this one, the morning exercise where, excuse me, before work, I would first thing in the morning or on my way to work in the car, I would practice when it wasn't a stressful time, switching from feeling stressed or anxious about something or doubtful, worried, anything negative, I would name it. And then I would practice visualizing something really, really positive happening. Maybe that I was dealing with a difficult person in the office, and I would visualize all of our interactions and exchanges being extremely positive, friendly, and helpful toward one another. Conflict with a partner, it works like that. Instead of focusing on the argument or the conflict, I would switch to what's my best memory with this particular person, and I would focus on that, relive that, visualize that to negate the negative feelings of the most recent experience, so that the next time I interacted with that person, it would be positive and on a positive note. And I would practice and visualize that in my head first. We can do it for financial worries. We can do it for traffic frustrations. I used to spend a lot of time in traffic in corporate America, and I learned early on to turn that into my university on wheels in terms of personal development or growing or learning different skills that I wanted to achieve to help me in my career. So how can this help us in our business? And what can we do to prepare ahead of time so that when stressful situations or different feelings pop up, we've got this tool at our fingertips? Well, one of the things I have not always done, but I learned to do was create a stories inventory where I have a whole book. I think I have 2 now of different stories, different experiences that I've had, and stories that have taught me lessons that I can use and share with other people when I want to convey a message or a lesson that I've learned and share that. But what we do for using the flip switch is we prepare a positive imagery bank. So I also have a little vault in my imagination and in my mind of positive experiences that I've had that I can use to flip switch to whenever I experience a negative emotion or negative thing. We want to use as many sensory details, just like with visualization. We want to use as many of our senses as we possibly can and details in our visualization as we're flip switching. We're going to practice in neutral times. Like I said, I would practice flipping emotions just in my drive to and from work. And then you can anchor it physically for more power. I actually have an anchor on my heart where I just tap my heart, and that helps me to flip from a negative type emotion to a higher frequency positive type situation and emotion. Again, I physically would go and flip a switch to walk myself through this process when I first learned about it. And then stay consistent. Practice and emotionally reprogram intentionally when you find yourself with a negative emotion that you want to neutralize. It is the most powerful way I have found to neutralize negative emotions instantly to get better results in all areas and aspects of my life, especially business, right? Where we need to have a cool head, where we need to show that we are in control of the situation and our emotions especially. It's especially important for us women for some reason. It's like a little natty bug flying my eyes, or I'm seeing spots. All right. So that's our strategy for today. I would love to know if you've ever used this technique. Again, I so appreciate Lynn Grabhorn for coming up with this and sharing it. I think she's since passed away, but I think it's so powerful. And whenever I use it, I think of Jim Edwards, which makes me smile because I love him. And that helps to reinforce the whole strategy of flip switching. All right. If you need help with this, if you want some people's stories, I can share them. I've got 5, but I go long if I share all the stories. So hit me up and ask. Otherwise, have an awesome day, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow. Try this out and see if you can't find that it benefits you and your organization.